back at it again. What up, what up? How's your day been? It's been alright. It's my dad's birthday yesterday, so still kind of tired from that, but it was a good time. A good time was had by all. I finished watching regular show finally. That was like 2 years worth of watching. And regular show was a show that I was just kind of like on and off about, but it wasn't until like past couple months that I've really just been hunkering down on it because I just wanted to get it done and over with. And it was an interesting experience. Like, I've never seen a show that has lots of ups and downs, characters I like and dislike. It's just like, it was a wild ride all the way through. A tremendously flawed series, but I enjoyed my time with it. Up to a certain point. There were some episodes that were really genuinely terrible, and I just had to grit my teeth because I'm like, all right, look, the show is already over. All right, it didn't drag on for like 20 seasons. There's actually an ending, so I look forward to that, and that's what kept me going, even though season 7 was already dragging and season 8 just, it was chugging. Drawing my most anticipated drawing. How's it going? Hi, bye. Yo, yo. And I compiled like a list of my favorite episodes from regular show and compared it. And just for your information, like each season has its own number of episodes, and most of them were okay. Like, there wasn't that many episodes that are legitimately terrible, but they did stand out to me more, especially as the seasons went on. Like season 8 especially, a lot of the episodes from season 8 just feel like leftovers from season 1, just recycled in space. So that was kind of annoying. And as far as the main two characters go, Mordecai and Rigby, they kind of like... their characterization feels like it went into stasis in the final season. Like, they don't get better, and sometimes they even get worse, but they don't like make any major progression at all. So it was interesting. So I have like two options. I can either start with Gravity Falls, which I've heard nothing but good things about Gravity Falls. Or Gravity Fall? Gravity Falls? I keep wanting to say Gravity Rush, but no, that's a completely different thing. I can either start with Gravity Fall or, you know, jump back into anime, because that is the one I'm like really behind. Like, I know a lot of people are like watching that new show Dandadan, which I have no idea what's even about, but honestly, I'd rather go to like a show that's already like done. Like, I've never finished Inuyasha, I've never finished Yu Yu Hakusho. There's a bunch of old anime that I have never finished, but I've heard good things about. So that's really the one that I want to be gunning for as far as anime goes. The only current thing that I've been keeping up with is Chainsaw Man, followed up by Watamote, which I'm still a few volumes behind Watamote, but I'm more current than anything else under that. And the other thing... oh, shoot, there's another one. Made in Abyss. I've only seen the first season of Made in Abyss. I do want to see the movie and the season 2. And... of course, I went back and Started from the very beginning with One Piece, so that's gonna be a long-term investment. Gravity Falls is top 10 best cartoons, really? Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about it, and currently my number one cartoon is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Just all-time classic. I've watched it like 3 times, like all the way through. Once by myself, once with my sister, and once with my mom. So I can watch it like a 4th time just for my dad. Like, that's usually how it goes. I usually like watch something by myself, then I introduce it to a family member, and if they like it, I introduce it to everybody else too. That's what happened with Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So yeah, just continuing the family tradition, I guess. A tradition that I started. Me. It was me the whole time. No spoilers, but Gravity Falls does have my favorite villain of all time. I may have seen that villain just because, you know, so much fan art just floats around the internet, but I'm not gonna say. Some, like... Nah, I'll keep it to myself until I actually watch the series. And then my suspicions can be confirmed. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience finishing regular show that was such a long time coming. Like, I've been watching that for like 2 years. Like, I watched it way back like in high school, but I never stuck around with it. Like, I was busy with other stuff. I focused mostly on, like, you know, anime and video games at the time. Like, American cartoons were kind of like an on and off thing. And a lot of it is because cartoons typically don't have endings. They just kind of like just go on forever, or they just don't have an ending so that you just keep watching in hopes that they have one. Like, I was a long time regular. I was a long time Rugrats fan, but that show never really had an ending. If anything, you can probably say that the Grown Ups episode was the ending. Or even Rugrats in Paris, you can probably say that one was the ending. But no, the show keeps going, like after the movie and, you know, those episodes I mentioned. Which, yeah, I mean, how was it supposed to end? Them growing up Well, they tried that with an actual series, and it was mixed results, I'd say. It's almost like the opposite problem that Star Wars had. It's like, you want to see Darth Vader as a kid? No. It's like, alright, do you want to see the Rugrats as adults? For like one episode, sure, but the main appeal of Rugrats was just seeing how their imagination just makes problems much bigger than they actually are, but at least they turn it into like a adventure. Regular show's weird case where the ending is good, but the season is tied was kind of bad. Yes, agreed, 100%. I hate the fact that season 7 had to devote so much time in order to set up season 8, which, for all intents and purposes, was just... They stuck the landing, but getting there was incredibly messy. Like, I mentioned it before, but I just didn't like the fact that Mordecai and Rigby's character just didn't go anywhere. Like, they peaked in season 7. Especially with Rigby's graduation. That was actually a really good finale. It's just, you know, everything afterwards. It has like an Adventure Time problem where most of the episodes are supposed to be like standalone. But now that they're in space, it's like, no, the episodes need to be connected somehow. But they don't do that. Like, there's so many episodes in season 8 that are just filler, and they feel like recycled episodes from season 1. Or Mordecai and Rigby are just back on their bullshit and just causing problems for everyone, and they have to spend the whole episode fixing the problems that they made. Benson's back to like yelling at them again. It's like, yeah, this is just season 1 all over again. What is it doing here in season 8, the final season? But I do like the ending. It was actually pretty sweet. If I were to nitpick, and I only nitpick because I care, I'd say that it is a tremendous shame that CJ and Margaret basically disappear for season 8 until like the final episode, and they don't have like that much part to play. Like, CJ doesn't even show up at all in season 8, I don't think. And not that they would, because after what Mordecai did to both of them, yeah, they should separate themselves from him as much as possible. He is not a good person. Like, I don't like Mordecai or Rigby, but Mordecai is like a special kind of hatred because he just consistently ruins the lives of everyone he comes to fall in love with. Like, he makes things so much harder than they need to be because he does not want to be honest with his feelings, and he is just incredibly ungrateful. Like, somebody pointed this out, like, in a video, like, when Rigby was covering shifts for Mordecai, and when Rigby got in trouble and he needed some backup, it's like, you know, tell them that I'm useful, you know, like, I actually help people. And Mordecai's like, not really. I mean, sometimes you're helpful, but you're not reliable. And it's like, what the hell, dude? This guy's been covering your shift multiple times, and you just disrespect him like that when he needs your help the most? So yeah, like, Mordecai is like the extreme version of just that common trope you see with a lot of teen drama, like the asshole character who has like all these love triangles going on, and just it's a complete loser basically, but people just tolerate them because they're funny and they got charisma sometimes. But Rigby is bad, but at least he has Eileen, who's trying to like make him a better version of himself. Like, she straight up just saw Rigby and is like, I can fix him, and she does. It's wild. And despite Rigby's other insensitivities, he knows more about people than Mordecai does. Mordecai is more of a guy who just likes to delude himself into problems. Like, he causes these problems on himself, and he just goes to a corner to feel bad about how life sucks, and it's frustrating to watch. And I guess you can say that Mordecai is like a cautionary tale for that kind of behavior. Especially when it comes to, like, relationships. The guy is just completely just... He may not look at it. He might not look like it, but he is just absolutely insane. He's absolutely insane and socially awkward regarding being honest. And that's not something you want to associate yourself with. Whether it be like a romantic relationship or just a workplace thing. That exact scene is why I hate him. I was already cringing hard during Muscle Man's wedding. Like, he was reading the letter that Muscle Man's father gave him, and then he starts talking about his own personal issues. It's like, what are you doing, dude? How do you... like, he was talking about the whole... his conflicted feelings with CJ and Margaret. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? In somebody else's wedding? Gosh damn. Oh yeah. Mordecai's a piece of shit, but he's in good company. And this is more for, like, Season 8 specifically, but it was kind of weird how Season 8 was basically making Pops the main character. And not that there's anything wrong with Pops. I actually like him in the early seasons. But the fact that he is now the main character, it's like, that's a lot of pressure. And at the worst of times, Pops just comes off as like a child. It's like, now this child has to be the one to save the universe. And just, it feels bad, man. Like, he's crying and whining and stuff. It's just, it feels weird. It's a weird fit. Like, I feel like in a different story, they would have made, like, Skips the character that they have to help out, but they've already done that before. In fact, that was, like, Season 1. Like, Season 1 and 2, where Skips is, like, a part of some world-ending competition, and Mordecai and Rigby have to help him with that. And I do feel bad for Eileen, because Season 8, she doesn't get that much to do compared to the other characters, and the fact that she's like the only main female character as well, it's kind of a problem. Like, I mentioned this example, but I've mentioned this example before, but it just feels like, imagine Final Fantasy VII, but the only girl is like Yuffie. Everyone else is just dudes. And I like Yuffie. In fact, I actually brought Yuffie to, like, the final fight with Sephiroth, but that's just too much responsibility for someone who's not going to get that much play anywhere else. And the fact that they even had like an episode that just breaks the fourth wall and talks about all the problems in the previous season and the one in the current season. It's like, yeah, they knew. Like, this show's got a lot of problems, but we're still trying to finish it out strong. So we gotta give them some credit. And in other news, I am still in the middle of replaying Persona 5, and I made it to Madarame's Palace. And from a theming standpoint, I think Madarame's Palace is like my favorite one, just because, you know, deals a lot with the art world and what artists have to deal with. My favorite music is still The Bank, though. I think that's the next one after this one. I could be wrong. Either Futaba's Palace is next, or it's Makoto's. I want to say it's Makoto's Palace. It's the third one. What the hell's going on with the chair? Don't worry about it. That's what storyboards are for. It's supposed to be rough around the edges. We'll fix it in editing. Yo, how's it going, Enigma? Happy Friday. What's been going on with you? Anything new? Or are you just gonna keep it, Enigma? Chill stream for today, indeed. Figured we can use a little bit of a break after the Life is Strange marathon. Does it even count as a marathon if I spread it out a few days? You know, it still bothers me that the game keeps saying that, you know, choices matter, choices have consequences, and you get to the end, nope, not really. It's 50-50. I literally flipped a coin for the ending, so all the choices I made before that moment didn't really matter too much, which couldn't really be helped considering that the game had a lot of budget cuts and, you know, time restraints. It's not until afterwards I found out that the game was supposed to have 8 episodes, but they had to bring it down to 5 episodes just to make the deadlines and the budget cuts meet. It's really frustrating. They pulled a heavy rain and they removed most of the supernatural elements that tie in, like the storm with the Native American land and the Prescotts. Life is Strange reminds me of, like, the early days when I read, like, fan fiction. Fan fiction is a complete mess, but it's still fun to go through. So, playing Life is Strange is kind of nostalgic in the same way. Detroit is standard for choice games. Choices actually matter and actually affect the ending. Yeah, it is wild to me how much content you can miss if you don't replay the game. Like, there are levels that are completely optional if you made a certain choice or failed to do something. Or if a character dies off super early in the story, Kara being the earliest that can die off. Which, for better or worse, Kara is like the most inconsequential one. And it doesn't help that she has like the dumbest twist on her story. Like the whole game could have just been about Connor and Hank, and I would have been fine. I think most people agree that like Connor and Hank's story is like the best one out of the three. And House of Ashes from the Dark Picture anthology was a solid one as well. It's as close as you can get to the quality that Until Dawn achieved. The original Until Dawn, not the remake slash remaster. I think the main draw is Connor and Hank. I think Marcus being the leader, the revolution, playing us both makes interesting personal choice. Agreed. I do love the fact that you can absolutely make Marcus or Connor the villain. And in order for there to be like a peaceful resolution, both of them need to be willing to pursue the peaceful option. If one party chooses to be violent, it's impossible for there to be a peaceful resolution for their story. Like, you can do a peaceful Marcus, evil Connor, and it's always going to end with them having a showdown. And vice versa, of course. And Kara is eh. Kara would have been fine if they didn't have that dumb twist, but because they do, it just completely tanks her story like nothing else. Busy making plans for the holiday season, also working on my wish list. Nice. Pre-planning, it's always the part that takes the longest. It's funny how much time you can spend just preparing for something, and when it actually happens, it's gone in a flash. Like, I remember, like, doing all these practices and rehearsals for a speech in my speech class, and the speech itself is only like 2 minutes. Like, I dunked hours into something that would be gone faster than a standard car commercial. To answer your question, I think I'll leave this as my username for now until I come up with something better. That's always the case, and then you stick with it long enough to the point where you kind of feel bad changing it. It happens. Eventually you just kind of settle with your username because you spent so much time with it, you kind of feel bad changing it now. I know a few folks on Discord that change their names to like something else. Usually like around holidays, they make it like holiday themed. Like if it's Halloween, they'll change their name to like something spooky. Add some pumpkins or whatever emojis to their name. We're like, man, y'all are really going all out. You're even decorating your username. Wonder what your house looks like. What do you think of the show RWBY? I've only seen season 1 of RWBY, but I remember the fight scenes being incredible, just with how dynamic the animations were, and just how creative they used their weapons, which is really fun to see. Like, I love how they use their weapons both as a means to attack and to traverse. Like, if they're gonna be using platforming, they're gonna use their weapon as, like, a jumping off point, or like a makeshift jetpack or jump pack. It was really cool to see. And even though I didn't really follow Ruby all that close, I did hear that, you know, the original creator passed away, and the show never really recovered from what I heard, which I can see that. Usually when a show loses its creator, it's like a huge part of the soul is just gone. And the character designs, at least from season 1, from what I've seen, are like really solid. They're like super iconic. Like, I remember going to a couple of conventions and I saw so many people cosplaying as Ruby characters. It was really cool to see. Especially the weapons too, the fact that they got those down pat as well. And that means a lot. Like, these weapons are part of the character. Like, the weapon they use is supposed to be a reflection of their personality and whatnot. So the fact that that is absolutely part of the cosplay is fantastic. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. And yeah, Rooster Teeth going down, that sucks. I do have another friend who is like super into Ruby, but I'm not sure if they're like caught up with it or whatnot. Actually, I have a couple of friends who are like super into Ruby. But it's one of those things where, because I'm not really that deep into the fandom, don't take that out of context, I never bring it up in conversation, so I don't really have that much to say about it other than, yes, I did watch season 1 and it was really enjoyable. And I think the only reason why I stopped was I just got busy with other stuff at the time. Most likely with video games and whatnot. And it's funny because I think the peak of me like watching anime and stuff was like around that time I watched Mirai Nikki Future Diary. And I know a lot of people shit on that show now, but that was the anime that got me back into anime. Like, if I didn't watch Future Diary, I would never have watched Kaiji. You know, and Kaiji was freaking incredible. Never would have watched Baccano, never would have watched, you know, Bunny Girl Senpai. Black Lagoon, that's another one. And, you know, Yuno Gasai is still, to this day, one of the greatest yandere characters of all time. She literally wins. It's fucking hilarious. And Mirai Nikki also has the hilarious thing going about it that you can't show this shit today. It's like Hellsing. You can't show Hellsing today. It is just so over the top with how edgy it is. Like, any like newcomer to anime watching it would have like a seizure with just how dark it gets, like just outrageously dark. Hellsing especially, oh my gosh, like there was like an episode that deals with like Saris's like backstory, like, you know, how she was before she became a cop. My gosh, like, you thought like Attack on Titans, Aaron's childhood was traumatizing. This is just like next level, like above and beyond even that. So end of an era. Rooster Teeth was some middle school shit. I hope it continues with Volume 10, the latest season. I'm glad some people from Rooster Teeth was able to recover, though. Well, that's good to hear. Usually when a big company like that goes down, like, it's almost like everyone goes into hiding. Or they split off and do something else, and it's just not nearly as good. Like, something from the creative team was just missing from whatever they needed. People shit on Mariah and Nikki? Yeah, a lot more so now than they did before. Just because, and even I said it, like, the show's not perfect, it's got problems, but I enjoyed the roller coaster ride it was. Like, people's biggest complaints with it is just how over the top and wacky the characters and the character motivations are. And I give it a lot more excuse now, especially with me, like, enjoying Danganronpa, because it's clear to me that the world that Mariah Nikki is in is like a hyper reality where characters aren't just characters, they are just so over the top in their personality. Like, if a character is gay, they are ridiculously gay. Like, it's not like subtle. Like, there is no subtlety in Mariah Nikki. What you see is what you get. If a character is a serial killer, oh my gosh, they kill so many people. Like, just, there is no limit to how absurd a character can be. Like, they literally have, like, a character who is supposed to be, like, a caretaker for an orphanage, and that character just looks like a bobblehead. Like, her head is bigger than, like, the entire cast combined. And we have to take that seriously. Like I said, it's like Danganronpa. Like, the characters are just ridiculous, but you enjoy the spectacle of just them existing in that world. And the cops are basically non-existent. Like, after what? After the third or fourth episode, the cops just stop being a thing until, like, it's way too late. Like, you'd have, like, gunfights and explosions, and the cops are just nowhere to be seen until after it's all done. Yeah. Stuff like that. But, again, like, if you go with it with an open mind and just knowing for a fact that this shit is gonna spin out of control, you're not watching something that's supposed to be, like, logical or grounded in any kind of way. Like, there's a difference between watching something like Death Note and something like Mirai Nikki, where Mirai Nikki just removed the limiters on just how crazy things can get. And you just kind of go with it. And the show itself doesn't really take itself that seriously until, like, you know, they want to show something really dark and edgy. In the same way that Hellsing, you know, just is so over the top and edgy, and there's times where they take things seriously and other times that are just batshit insane, which is funny because the original Hellsing manga is also super goofy. Like, I was shocked reading, like, the early chapters of Hellsing. I'm like, this doesn't feel like the Alucard that I'm used to. Alucard would not be cracking this many jokes, and just, he reminds me of Vash the Stampede from Trigun. You know, just kind of goofy, but he's got swagger, that kind of thing. Unlike the anime adaptations of Alucard, where he's pretty serious. Like, he'll crack a joke every once in a while, but the joke is more, like, classy and not like, oh, like a regular show character. like the Hellsing Abridged series is closer to the manga than the actual show, in terms of, like, Alucard's behavior, where he's not really taking much, he's not really taking things seriously. He doesn't feel that threatened by whatever he's up against. He's just having a good time, which is true in the regular show, but there's a difference between, you know, being cocky and just being goofy, you know? A little overall goofball. My introduction to anime was Elfen Lied. That was a great experience. Man, I couldn't finish Elfen Lied. That was too much for me. Not that it was, like, too violent or anything, but I just hated how the characters just did not behave in a believable way. Like, I'm fine with the show being unrealistic. You know, I don't want things to be hyper realistic. I don't watch shows that are, like, trying so hard to be nitty-gritty. Unless it's like Breaking Bad. Like, I don't watch shows for realism. I watch them to be compelled and to just be infatuated with the characters and their motivations. Elfen Lied is the one that irritated me because I could not get a read on the characters. Like, they don't act like characters, they act like lines on a page. Case in point, like, the main character finds a naked girl on the beach. Does he call the cops? Does he ask for any help? Nope, he just brings her back to his house for her to stay there. Like, no questions asked. That's weird. Or later on, when they're trying to hunt down the girl, they already established that the only bullets that work on her are 50 caliber. You know, 50 cal. So whether you fire that shit from a sniper rifle or from a machine gun, it has to be a 50 cal. They catch up to her. What are they rocking? They're rocking MP5s. 9mm. Just completely stupid. And it's so frustrating to me that that keeps happening. And it's funny, because of that show, I think that, like, that made it harder for me to actually like the MP5 as a gun, because they kept, like, showing off how weak it is. Oh, man. And Max Payne 3, funny enough, didn't really help. Even though it is a good gun in multiplayer, in single player, you need to swap it out with something else. The MP5 in Max Payne 3 has, like, some of the slowest reload times out of all the other guns in the game. But what's good with the MP5 is it's so pinpoint. That thing has, like, no recoil. Which is why it was so lethal to use it in multiplayer, because you'll be nailing headshots from across the map with it. The only downside is just the reload time. Yeah, they showed how ineffective the MP5 was in the first episode, and they keep using it. It's just batshit insane. Not a good way, but still. As much as I shit on Elfen Lied, it's still one of the more iconic animes from that era, and the opening song still goes hard. That paired with the visuals, it's iconic. I got better than my brother, though. His first anime was High School DxD. I missed out on that one. I instead indulged in High School of the Dead. That anime. And High School of the Dead has its own problems. They run into the issue of, yeah, characters are just not acting in a believable way. And you just have to roll with it. You just have to be in the mood for something like that. And High School of the Dead is a good time, you just need to know what you're getting into. High School of the Dead is like one of those animes that you would use to, like, prepare somebody for other anime. It's like, alright, look, here's an anime that is so violent and sexual, but this is like a benchmark that you can use for other anime. It's like, okay, how do you feel about violence? How do you feel about, you know, fan service and lewd content? Well, here's High School of the Dead. How do you fare against that? And then we can, like, see what other animes you're willing to watch after surviving. That rifle scene in High School of the Dead took me out completely. Physics be damned. Yeah, that scene is so infamous. I love the fact that somebody actually calculated the speed of that bullet with the boobs. If you ever feel like you got a little too much time on your hands, just remember that somebody did the math on that scene. So, don't feel bad. but that's why we love the internet. Never seen High School of the Dead, but you even seen the rifle scene. My gosh. It's on Hulu. Anybody can watch it, so... It's a good show to watch during Halloween. If you just need to watch something that's somewhat Halloween related. The major tragedy, of course, being the main creator passing away. That sucks. And out of respect, they decided to end the series. It ends on a cliffhanger, but the cliffhanger wasn't that bad. It's more of a, the adventure continues in your imagination. That kind of ending. I will say, though, I think it is a huge missed opportunity that they didn't make a High School of the Dead video game. I think plenty of people would love to play like a Left 4 Dead style game with, you know, anime characters and whatnot. Over-the-top animations and melee kills. Just stuff like that. Also watched Tokyo Ghoul. The first season was dope until season 2 where they drove it into a ditch. I never really followed Tokyo Ghoul, but even I have to say that it's one of those shows that just kind of disappeared off the radar. And I get the feeling that Jujutsu Kaisen is kind of going down that route. Apparently there's some controversy with the way that the show or manga ends. So, I don't know. I mean, even My Hero Academia, I heard really bad things about the ending for My Hero Academia. Which is a shame because, you know, it's one of those shows that I want to get into, but I was just busy, and by the time I'm like, alright, you know, maybe it's a good time for me to get into it, they're like, nah, ending's disappointing, don't bother. You know. Sure, most people have seen the McDonald's memes already, but that's bad. I don't have any context about the ending, but I do know about the McDonald's memes. Mickey D's. Mickey D's nuts. I feel like a lot of shonen anime just run into that problem where they have like a really good premise and then it just ends in like a disappointing way, effectively killing off its legacy. I mean, with the way that shonen has been going as of late, of course a lot of people are going to be worried with the way that One Piece ends. Besides people getting mad that their ship isn't canon, the ending to My Hero was just okay in my opinion. And I think that's what a lot of people dislike, is the fact that the ending is just okay, considering everything that's been, you know, set up and all the events that led up to that moment, and just the ending being okay just feels like a wet paper bag compared to the feast that they had earlier. Yeah, excuse my food metaphor, but yeah, it's like you go to a buffet, you have like this awesome plate, you even got some steak with it as well, and then after that delicious steak, waiter walks up and he's like, alright, here's some crackers. And you're like, alright, I mean, it's still good, it's just after the steak, the crackers are just like, okay, why even bother? You know? Like, your expectations were already super high because of what happened earlier, and now it's just kind of me. Yeah, My Hero Academia ended. A lot of people made memes about the ending and whatnot. I mean, at least it's not like Attack on Titan's ending, which is just not only a complete mess, but problematic as fuck. Like, oh my gosh. It's like, regardless of how you feel about Attack on Titan's ending, we have to admit that the way that they handled a lot of its characters is just a mess. Especially with, like, Historia just being downgraded to a background character when she had, like, such an amazing character arc. Like, she becomes a background character and they marry her off to some nobody. And her sole duty is now just to make babies. It's like, damn. What is this, fan fiction? You don't have to do anything but sleep with this guy all the time. 24/7. I remember watching My Hero eps as they were coming out back then. Last thing I remember was a tournament. Not sure what season that is, but super early. Ichiruki would be canon if Shonen Jump didn't cancel Kubo's contract. Damn. Yeah, I haven't followed up on Bleach, but I know they got like a new season. I wonder how much they attempted to fix after what happened in the prior one. Bleach is just one of those shows I didn't get a chance to watch all that much because, well, I was busy with Full Metal Alchemist, Death Note, Code Geass. Naruto. And One Piece. You know, back when it still showed on Cartoon Network anyway. Yeah, Code Geass. I mean, it had some pretty ridiculous moments. Okay, it's one of those shows that it's kind of hard to bring up today. Fuck. That table scene, huh? Sure, you is important for the plot. That poor table. I don't think today's audience will be ready for that sort of thing. It's your OTP. That's cursed, but I respect it. So bad. Damn mahogany. He was varnished up, dude. Man. That's no way to treat your fine furnishing. Man, Ghost of Tsushima was an amazing game. Like, I normally don't platinum open world games, but that game was a joy to play. And the platinum wasn't that annoying to get. It's great that the collectibles actually gave you a reason to go find them. Usually get like a new cosmetic, which is always nice. No microtransactions needed. And the music and the world. I played this back on PlayStation 4, and it still looks beautiful. Like, I'm itching to replay a lot of these games now that I got my PlayStation 4 fixed. And it's nice that I can, take Life is Strange off my backlog, which has just been sitting there for years. There's plenty of games that I got from PlayStation Plus that I never checked out because I was just wrapped up with multiplayer games especially. I mean, I love multiplayer games, don't get me wrong, but the fact that I can just play them forever and never really move on to greener pastures, kind of a problem. Like, yeah, the Battlefield 1 is really fun to play, but damn, I kind of need to, finish something else. Like, there's another one. I have the DLC for Dead Space 2, and I've never played it. And I love Dead Space 2, but I never found the time to play the DLC. Which I guess doesn't really matter all that much because frickin' Dead Space 3 never even addressed the DLC. So it might as well not even be canon. Unlike, something like The Evil Within. The Evil Within's DLC is 100% canon. In fact, if you were to play The Evil Within 2, it straight up spoils the DLC for The Evil Within 1. That's pretty funny. Really, it's the little moments of Code Geass that make the whole story stand out. Little moments of insanity and humanity make it a great story. It's not endless, fate-driven plot progression. Yeah, agreed. Same reason why I love stuff like Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they would have episodes that are just dedicated to showing how the characters, interact with each other. Like, that's good filler. I wouldn't even call it filler because it adds so much to just see how these characters are when they're not, like, working on something huge. Like, if all the characters are just like doing like world-saving events, then you don't really get to see who they are as a person. Like, you need to see these characters when their hair is down, their guard is down, just experiencing life like a normal person, you know? We like Tony Stark not because he's Iron Man, we like Tony Stark because he's Tony Stark. We like Spider-Man because Spider-Man is not all he is. He's still trying to live a normal life outside that. It's just that with the power that he's been given, he has a responsibility, he has a calling to help out people who are not as fortunate as he is. He's still the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man at the end of the day. Haven't gotten to play Ghost of Tsushima yet, and I don't know when I'll get to it. Maybe when it's $20 on Steam. I have so many Steam games I haven't touched. Understandable. I mean, I played it at launch on PlayStation 4, and that was incredible. I mean, sure, the story isn't anything like original or anything. It really is just your standard, you know, uh, adaptability versus tradition, you know, survival of the fittest, stuff like that. Like, how much of your honor are you willing to compromise in order to win, stuff like that. And at the same time, are there some traditions that do need to die off for new blood to take hold? Sure, it's not like an original story of any kind, but it was told with sincerity and with expert execution. Same way that a lot of people feel about The Last of Us. The Last of Us story is basically Children of Men, that movie, and a bunch of other apocalyptic movies. The Road is another comparison people make. Like, you've seen these apocalyptic movies before, but the fact that the Last of Us is playable and it's told with the same kind of execution that Naughty Dog was good at it, that's the main appeal. And regardless of what the writing may be at certain points, the voice actors are giving it their all, like 100%. Like Riverdale. Riverdale is a complete mess from a story standpoint, but what really makes it work for a lot of people is the actors attached to these characters. They can be saying the most ridiculous lines, doing the most ridiculous actions, but the fact that the actor is taking it seriously 100% and really doing their best, it makes a huge difference. I get it. Helldivers 2 has been a time sink. They patched it, so it's good now. Yeah, I'm glad. I mean, I'm taking a break from Helldivers 2 because I already got all the upgrades. I got pretty much everything I really wanted. And I'm just waiting for new vehicles to come out. I think that's just for me. Now that the game, from a gameplay standpoint, from a balance standpoint, is in a good place, all I'm really waiting for is some real content, because new guns and new cosmetics is just not enough for me to come back anymore. It's just... It sucks that a huge chunk of time has been used just to unfuck themselves, basically. Like, they had to remind themselves that this is a PvE game, not a PvP game, so they really need to stop balancing it like that. But, yeah, the only thing that they need to do to get back in everyone's good graces is to relist the game for those 177 countries, and to add that cape with the Steam reviews on it that they promised. And I think they're holding off on giving out that cape because the game is still unlisted for those 177 countries. And plus, it's... a cape like that is already just going to be like a giant middle finger to Sony for what they did. So, what can you do? Except play the waiting game, I guess. Evil Within walked hard. Yeah, I did. That game was fucking awesome. And I played that before the patch, so the game would run at like 10 frames per second when things got intense. And it had the cinematic bars just to keep the frame rate somewhat stable. It didn't really do much, honestly, but that was a trick that a lot of developers used back then, was if the frame rate kept dying, they just add those cinematic bars to just cut down the amount of detail on screen. I think was it Dragon's Dogma did that? Yeah, Dragon's Dogma did that. Maybe they patched it later, but yeah. I love the fact that the cinematic bars is an unlockable reward in the Evil Within 2. Even they were poking fun at themselves. It's like, hey, if you want a real cinematic experience, you can now enable the cinematic bars for your next playthrough. If the characters are just agents of the plot, it makes the plot less interesting. They have to be human beings taking on this burden and mental responsibility of the hero's journey. Yeah. And I think that's what, going back to the whole regular show thing, I think that's what bothered me a lot. The fact that Mordecai and Rigby are no longer the main characters, they're just side characters. It feels like all the characterization that they made in the previous seasons don't go anywhere because it doesn't play any kind of role in the finale. They are basically the same people they were back on season 1 during the finale. Like, there was a moment, I guess spoilers for regular show. If you don't want to hear spoilers, cover your ears for like 10 seconds. There was a moment where the fight was going to end in a draw again, but they decided they were going to fly their ship between the two fighters to stop the fight, essentially. Just to change things. But uh, they tried to hit the eject button on their ship, but it malfunctioned. So when they flew their ship between the two fighters, they got in between the punch, and they essentially died during that moment. And it reset the universe because the fight ended in a draw. That's what they were trying to avoid, but ended up happening anyway. Now, the reason why I brought that up is because them flying their ship in between the two fighters, with them still in it, that was not a heroic sacrifice. That was a complete accident. Like, they didn't mean to do that. It would have been different if they did try to eject, but they realized that, okay, the ejection doesn't work. But do we still want to fly the ship in between the two fighters? Yes or no? No, they don't even make it. They don't make that a point. They did it by complete accident. So there wasn't even a heroic sacrifice in any way. It was just a happy accident, which, it is what it is. But just goes to show you that, they didn't make any progress. They weren't heroes in that moment. They just accidentally did that. So, yeah. I mean, my favorite episodes of regular show usually involve the characters just get along with each other and just seeing a new perspective that they didn't consider before. Like, it annoys me when a lot of like American cartoons just reset everybody's personality back to zero, just so that we can have episodes that are inconsequential to the plot. And it wasn't normally a problem in regular show until season 7 and 8, when they tried to tie in some lore and consequences. It's like, you can't do that. Like, we've already had like 6 seasons of like standalone episodes that are just kind of doing their own thing. The major exception, of course, being Mordecai's relationships with CJ and Margaret. But for the most part, a lot of the episodes in regular show are good standalone stories. It's like, you can't really switch gears. Like, Courage the Cowardly Dog is great. All the episodes are standalone. They basically are their own stories by themselves. And Avatar: The Last Airbender is great, where pretty much every episode is tied together and they're, chronological order. You can't do both. You can try desperately, but it leaves a bad taste in people's mouth when you have like a major plot that characters are supposed to be focused on, and then you dump all this other random episodes that don't tie with it. Like with regular show season 7 and 8, that they have that problem. There's plenty of episodes that are good standalone ones, but then they sprinkle in like lore detail, and it's like, okay, well, you have to watch this episode. You don't have a choice. When Stan Lee first pitched Spider-Man, some executives said it was the worst idea ever. Whoever wanted to see a superhero with personal problems. That's funny. Arrowhead are their own worst enemies. Well, apparently, the guy who's doing the balancing was from Hello Neighbor 2, which I don't play Hello Neighbor, but even I heard about how infamous the balancing for that game was. And that game is PvE as well, and they freaking balance it like it's PvP. It's like, we can't have the player actually learn how to defeat the boss. It's like, what? Why does every game have to be freaking Alien Isolation, where the boss is like relentless and invincible? That's why I always preferred games like Resident Evil or The Evil Within or Dead Space. I can actually fight back against the thing that's scaring me. And no matter how invincible something may be, it will always have a weakness that you can discover and then use for future playthroughs. I understand the appeal of having an AI that will learn from its mistakes, but it is entirely possible to make an AI so perfect that it just sucks the fun out of the game. These games are meant to be finished. You can make like a first-person shooter where the bot has like perfect aim and reloads faster than you do and has better gaming chair. But it's not gonna be fun for the player. I mean, it's gonna be fun for the beginning because you can show off, oh look how impossible this game is, and then later on it's like, okay, well I'm not really making any progress, so I'm just gonna stop playing the game. Well, it is called regular show. Well, that's the problem though. Like, season 7 and 8 is when they decided to remove the regular part of regular show. Season 8 is the one where they're stranded in space. Like, the joke of regular show has always been the fact that, you know, it's supposed to take place at the park or some believable location. So when goofy things happen, it's funny because it shouldn't be happening there. But considering they're now stuck in space, it's like if they meet an alien or discover this weird planet, it's like, yeah, I mean, you're in space. That's expected. So a lot of the humor is lost because you're already in a goofy environment. It's no longer regular. Like, there is nothing to compare it to. It's like, this is the new normal. It's funny in the earlier seasons because everything was normal in the beginning and then just spun out of control and they have to get it back to where it used to be. Forgot what game it was. I think it may have been like Halo Infinite. Somebody brought up a good point. Like, the music was good, but the problem is, like, you can just be like doing something normal. Oh no, I don't think it was Halo Infinite. It was like Alone in the Dark. Not the recent Alone in the Dark, but the Alone in the Dark that came out like years ago on like Xbox 360. It had like James McCaffrey voice the main character as well. I don't think anybody played that game, and I don't even know if you can play it on anything except an Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. But yeah, that game had really good music, but it's like, actually no, shoot, it wasn't Alone in the Dark. Sorry, scratch that. Throw that memory out the window. It was Advent Rising. It's that really obscure sci-fi game that was supposed to be like a series, but that didn't really happen because the studio went bankrupt or whatever. Yeah, the music was epic. Like, seriously, like Halo level of just orchestra and grandiose. But the problem is they would play that all the time. Like, you can just be walking down like a hallway and it's just like do 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 do, like the most epic music, and it's like, what is going on? Why are you hyping me up when there's nothing happening? So that's what I mean by, it's like, now that they're in space, we're already like evening out in terms of just absurdity. There's nothing to compare it to. Like, we're at the bottom of the hill and we're not going up because we're already plateauing. Words. What words do I want to use? They're escaping me today. I didn't get to see the later seasons, but I always thought it was about two regular dudes working at the park, joking around, being lazy, throwing spitballs at me. Friends, cartoon slice of life. Yeah, it used to be like that, but then season 7 happened and they were like, all right, well, we have to like wrap this series up in like an epic way. So they spent like a good chunk of season 7 just establishing lore, but not consistently. There's like a lot of episodes in season 7 that are just like beating around the bush. Like, they're straight up filler episodes, like episodes that should be from season 1, but they're here for some reason. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time with regular show. It has its ups and downs, and it was really interesting to watch a cartoon that has so many characters that are annoying, but you put up with them because, you know, they're really handy to have in a fight, which happens often. And there's one thing that you can't fault these characters for is lack of trying. Because when any character needs help, they will always drop what they're doing and try to fight for a solution, or at the very least give them an opinion, like a second opinion that will lead them in the right direction. So that's nice. Um, but yeah. Um, and the ending is solid. I mean, it was a rocky road getting to that point, but I the ending for a regular show is good. It just sucks that, you know, so much characterization was just kind of left on the cutting room floor. I mean, it's impressive that it's lasted as long as it did. 8 seasons is nothing to sneeze at. And it is nice to watch a show and know that it absolutely has an ending. Like, it's not gonna drag on for like 20 seasons. Hello Neighbor sucked, bro. I didn't even know they made a sequel. Yeah, they did. I don't know if it's fully out or it's still in early access, but yeah, I've heard horror stories about the development for Hello Neighbor 1 and 2. Like, you know it's bad when I'm not into the series, but I keep hearing about it. And it's not good. Remember when regular show did nothing with Thomas, so they randomly decided to make him a Russian spy? That was the worst. Like, just when I was starting to like Thomas, like, he was going to be like the regular part of regular show. Like, all the other characters are just wacky as hell, or they got some crazy backstory. But Thomas was just a regular dude. Like, he was basically like a viewer of the show. It's like, what would that look like? Like, you just take a regular person who is actually competent at their job and follows direction. What would that look like? And that was Thomas. And that's the humor behind it, is that you just have like a regular dude being a part of the show and just gets caught up in these crazy adventures. Like, Thomas was like basically Mordecai and Rigby if they actually just did their job. That was the joke. But yeah, the fact that they just made him like this Russian super spy who doesn't even show up in season 8 or the ending, it's like, what happened? So yeah, that kind of sucked with Thomas just being basically thrown away, I'd say. 10 out of 10 political thriller. The AI wasn't a problem for me in Helldivers. It was mostly them nerfing weapons and all the glitches. Yeah, which they're still dealing with bugs and glitches, so that sucks. And yeah, it's the weapons being nerfed for me as well. And before people are saying, oh, you know, get good, I'm like, dude, I'm already like friggin' 200 hours clocked in, and I already have all the achievements, so I don't have an issue with getting good at the game. I consistently played on difficulty 7 and higher. And, you know, a couple months ago, I was playing on difficulty 10. So I don't have an issue with getting good. My issue is with them nerfing their guns like it's a PvP game. And the biggest issue with why that is a problem with Helldivers 2 is the fact that you have to spend resources to get these weapons. Whether it's super credits to get the War Bond being the, you know, season pass. That's one thing. I'll give it one praise. It's nice that the season pass is essentially free. All you have to do is just keep playing the game and, you know, farm super credits for a bit. But it is cool that you can get season passes for free and there's no expiration date. Like, you can earn the stuff in the season pass whenever you want. That's nice. I like that. The problem was with the nerfing that happened, a few months back. You would spend hours getting the resources to get a season pass and to unlock the weapons with medals that you get from completing missions. You'd have real good fun with these weapons, and they'd nerf it in the next week or the next month. And it just keeps happening because of their flawed logic. It's like, oh, hey, look, all these people are using this gun. We should nerf it. Instead of being like, huh, I wonder why all these people are using this gun. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because the gun just came out in the new season pass? Is that why everyone's using it? Because the gun just came out, it's brand new, and people want to use it? Huh. Well, I guess we'll just nerf it anyway because people are having too much fun and showing up in too many loadouts. And it goes against logic when it comes to like warfare, especially in the future. Because remember, sci-fi setting? Whenever a new gun comes out, it's supposed to take research and, development, R&D, for that to even happen. We shouldn't release a gun that is supposed to be worse than what we've been using. Okay, that's completely illogical. It's like if we were using an AK-47 and then they're like, alright, I know you've been enjoying this AK-47, but we've now come out with the AK-48, and it's a bolt action, and you have to load rounds like one at a time, and it doesn't even have a strap on it. It's like, what the fuck? How did we go from the AK-47 to the 48, and the 48 is worse than the one we've been using? And Helldivers 2 took it a step further. It's like, okay, nobody's using the AK-48. What do? We're gonna nerf the AK-47 because too many people are using it. It's like, why? They hated fun. They don't want people to beat the game, they want them to struggle, because I guess they had like the Dark Souls mentality of, if you're having an easy time playing this game because you're using this weapon, well, you didn't actually beat the game. Oh, you used healing items? You didn't beat the game. Oh, you used this weapon? You're not that good at the game. It's like, you're giving yourself stupid rules because you're trying to stroke your ego somewhat. Glitches that help the player should remain in the game unless it's to the point of invincibility. That's why I think glitches that help can stay, glitches that make the experience must go. Granted, the game should not have any glitches. Yeah, that's... In a perfect world, glitches like that wouldn't exist. But we don't live in a perfect world. I love it in Skyrim when epic battle music plays for no reason as you're looting mini health potions. Apparently the dev of Hello Neighbor made the game for streamers alone, something that looks fun to play when played by professional streamers. On his Twitter, he begs Markiplier. Oh gosh, yeah, that's gonna finish. Look up AK-48 and nothing but weed streams game. Wow, okay. No? I wonder if it's better if it... I wonder if it's better than the AK-47 weed. 13 decks, but don't tell anyone you looked that up. Putting a single point into dexterity? How dare you? Do you not care for your soul? The dark soul. Does putting a single point into dexterity make you less of a man? The results may shock you. Fire the base cannon. More like based cannon. Ooh. Effortless line drawing. This is just the sketch. We haven't even gotten to the line art, dude. Like, I'm telling you, like... It's funny how it swapped. Like, before, line art took forever. Because I wanted everything to be, like, super precise and clean. Like, for example, like... Even I'm, like, choking myself out with my own... process. Yeah, like, this is what my line art typically looks like. Like, you see how, like, crisp the lines are? Like, damn. You have to zoom in so much just to see, like, a little imperfection, like, right there. I guess I, like, twitched. And I just went off the line right there. Like, you have to zoom in a lot just to see me fuck up the line art. Look right there. Ooh, zoom in right there. You see how, like, the color kind of goes over there? Yeah, that's a fuck up. Look at me criticizing myself. But yeah, before, this would take me, like, a full day to do. The line art. Because I want it to be as crisp as humanly possible. But now... it's swapped. Now sketches take a while because you see me doing all the, like, I want make sure everything's lined up. I gotta respect the perspective, make sure like it doesn't look like the furniture is like floating off the floor. Like shit like that. Like the blueprint is what takes the longest. Building the house is just a formality at this point. Making the blueprint is what takes like the longest. Because, you know, when you make a blueprint, it's like, all right, gotta worry about the plumbing. Here comes the air conditioning. Okay, where's the electrical outlets? All right, is there enough windows? All right, making the blueprints takes fucking forever. With the house, all right, it's all set in stone, quite literally in some cases. All right, we got the blueprint. It's already been approved. Everything makes sense. All we're doing is just laying down the bricks and just following the instructions. That's how I feel about sketches. Sketches take the most time, and then line art is like, all right, I am now locking in my choices. I don't have to do any more guesswork. It's all good to go. You know, you don't have to worry about anything else. Now the real question is, what takes longer? The sketches or the coloring? And that's debatable. Depending on what character I'm coloring, that shit might take, like, a day. Like, I mean, I'm thankful that, you know, the characters in Cataclysm Club aren't that, you know, complicated. Like, they're... yeah, just... straightforward. Everybody has their own nice color scheme. I'd say the only one that has any kind of, like... I wouldn't even call it complexity, but there's more things to consider. It's probably just Junko, just because she has, like, accessories, which makes sense, considering she has, like... she's the, ultimate fashionista, so of course she'd have, like, the most accessories. She's got those pins, she's got, like, a necktie, she's got a choker. Like, I don't even have to look at the reference photo anymore, I just know what she wears, because I've drawn her so much. Even before Cataclysm Club, I already drew enough Junko, because I had, like, a Persona 5 crossover comic that I did, and I do feel bad that I kind of dropped that one, but that wasn't really meant to be, like, a mainstay title for me. That was just for me to, like, get comfortable with doing comics again, because I was out of practice for so long. We'll be here. We're patient. Artists be like, I fucked up, here zooms in 10 magnification. Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like musicians are the same way, where it's like, I fucked up the string, and I'm like, I don't hear it. That shit sounded awesome. What do you mean you didn't strum it right? It sounded great. It's like if a drummer accidentally hit the drum like an extra time. I'm like, I didn't hear it. It still sounds good. Like, what do you mean you accidentally hit the drum again? Like, you're telling me that wasn't part of the song? Well, it should be. Guess that's the mark of a true professional, is like they can recognize their faults, but nobody else can, which is good, because it's like, alright, that means I can improvise and no one's gonna see it the other way. Which is what I tell a lot of people, like, look, a lot of artists who are so focused on like some sort of singular detail, I'm like, okay, look, as long as the overall picture is great, don't worry about it. Alright, nobody's gonna care that you, like, painted 1,000 blades of grass. No one's gonna notice that unless you point it out. Like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't put, like, an extra effort into making something look good, but you have to realize that time is a factor, and you need to find ways to get the same job done, but more efficiently, you know, work smarter, not harder. Okay? You can build a PlayStation with chopsticks And that's impressive, sure, but all that time that you spent doing that, you could have built like 200 PlayStations doing that. Like, why are you making it so much harder for yourself when you didn't have to? Like, that movie, 1917, that World War One movie that's supposed to be, like, done in one take, like, one continuous shot, which, you know, a good chunk of the movie is, but they do cheat in a lot of ways. One of which being, they knock out the character a lot. Like, he keeps getting knocked out and then waking up later. So yeah, they cheat like that. Like, you made that so much harder for yourself because you're trying to make everything like one continuous shot when the story itself is pretty mid. Like, it really annoyed me how certain things happen in the story and you just have to roll with it. It's like, why did that happen? Well, because the scriptwriter said so. Not because it was believable for the character to do that thing, but it was just, you know, they had to advance the plot somehow, so they just came up with some arbitrary reason for doing so. Maybe go for vibes, themes instead of hard realism. Up to you though. Terry G's Brazil was more style over realism and it was beautiful. I always loved Impressionism, just because you're able to accomplish like so much with just a single brush stroke. Like, I always loved that. And not that I don't have respect for like photorealism, that is incredible that people can make something look like a photograph. But that's not really the one that I want to go for. And for good reason. It's just, it's not, the things that I want to do with my drawings don't really call for photorealism. The closest I'll ever be to that is with backgrounds. If the backgrounds look good, then it's more of a compliment to everything else. It's just with characters, I don't have any interest in drawing like nose hairs or like each individual like pimple on somebody's face. I don't care for that. I prefer drawing cartoons. I like drawing anime. And not that, you know, not that this should prevent people from studying photorealism, absolutely. Like, you want to get better at coloring, you need to study real-life shadows and whatnot. But the important thing is you know what you're going for, and you're not just studying this just because somebody told you to. If what you're doing requires you to study photorealism, then you really need to dunk into it. It's like if you want to be a rock musician, you're gonna have to start studying like different genres of rock. Alternative, punk, heavy metal, death metal. Like, you need to like learn as much as you can in that genre. And it's not until later that you can start branching off. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, you're a rock musician, but what is country doing? You know, can you learn something from country that you can incorporate into your own genre? Same with, you know, drawing. Like, yeah, I love anime and cartoons, but okay, what does photorealism do well that I can use here? Or for a lot of tips I get is like sculpting. Like, sculptures basically force you to understand like the human form and break it down into simpler shapes. And because it's in a physical 3D environment, you really get a mind for that sort of thing. It gets to a point where you don't have to like keep looking at a reference photo or an anatomy book. It's like, you crafted this statue, you sculpt it, like, you already know it in your mind. It's part of your visual library. So, I mean, that's the way I've always approached things, is like, if I feel like I hit a limit or I see a weakness that I really want to get rid of, I study that thing until it stops being a problem. It's like, okay, my fucking backgrounds suck. What do I do? Alright, well, here's some perspective training. Here's some coloring. Here's some color theory. Here's some furniture. Just looking through like a catalog of like different chairs and stuff. Going to The Sims and taking screenshots of like different houses and arrangements. Just give yourself an opportunity to learn something that you actually need and you can use right now. I think most people, when they're learning a new skill, they run into an issue of lack of motivation because they're learning something that they don't really need to use right now. It's like they're learning something too soon and they're wasting time on something that's not even going to be an issue until later. Not that it's bad that they're learning it, it's just you're not going to be capitalizing on it immediately. I mean, there are certain skills that are basically universal for art, you know. Composition, perspective, anatomy, proportions, stuff like that. And everything else, or, you know, other stuff, it's kind of like an upgrade from beyond that. Like, you can get away with a lot just by handling the foundation. What's the foundation? The fundamentals, not foundation. Oh, no, I mean, I know you're not trying to influence or anything, it's just... And by all means, I love, like, seeing different perspectives, so don't think I'm being offended or anything. Like, everybody has their own, experiences, and it's really cool to see, like, what they got to offer for free. Like, it's amazing what you can learn for free on the internet, especially if you ask nicely. You said the blueprints take a while, so I was thinking about expressionist or surrealistic style comics where the surroundings aren't hard or unchanging. Yeah. I think the tricky thing for me is already established that the backgrounds are supposed to be, basically a single room. I made my life a little easier that, you know, the Cataclysm Club comic basically takes place in one area that just has, like, different rooms, or the room can change to be a different setup. That's just how it is. You know, video games. And on occasion they, you know, change the scenery, but that'll happen later. And I already know for a fact that when I jump back into animation, I'm gonna need to learn a bit more about Blender, considering that a lot of artists, especially when it comes to animation, they use Blender for the more difficult environments. Like, yeah, you can animate it by hand, but I've seen animations that have hand-drawn characters with Blender-made backgrounds, and it looks fantastic. Like, you wouldn't even notice until somebody points it out. That's how, like, how much it matches their art style. And because, you know, the background is made in 3D, like, you can get some really wacky camera angles that would just be such a pain in the ass to animate by hand. sandwich. Man, one of these days I do want to check back with Team Fortress 2 to see how much has changed. At the very least, I can just play some of the classic servers, because I don't care much for the new weapons. I just want to relive the time I spent playing that game on Xbox 360. That would be good. Honestly, the only change that I would have liked, and I don't know if they do that on the classic servers, maybe, maybe not, the air blast for the pyro, because that is so useful. If you're the pyro and you're going against a demo man or a soldier, you're basically fucked. You don't have anything that can deal with that. But because of the air blast, you can actually defend yourself a little bit. So that's nice. That was really the only change that I would give the classic version, is just give the pyro the air blast. I can do without all the new weapons and... what was it, like? Cosmetic items that actually give you a bonus. I can deal without that. Is AI to the 2020s like the internet was in the 90s? What do you mean by that? I mean, like, general attitude? Does anyone remember that Looney Tunes gag where Bugs Bunny straight up shoots a guy for coughing? Yeah, that's hilarious. Like, I saw that like a few weeks ago and that made me laugh. And then I realized, you know what? Looney Tunes is still funny to this day. I love slapstick humor. Like, not a single word of dialogue would even be needed, because the physical humor is that good. Depends on if AI will help humanity in the long run instead of dumbass meme videos. Hey, I love the dumbass meme videos. I prefer that shit over the, you know, art stealing, slop, and legal, just legal bullshit it's tied with it as well. It's like, it couldn't stay as just meme videos. People try to monetize that shit and then claim that, oh, this takes work too, and I'm like, well, so does fucking plagiarizing, apparently. Yeah. My brain is a little too tired to be thinking about all the drama associated with AI. And just how much of the algorithm and databases that they use for AI is just taken without anyone's permission whatsoever. Shit like that. The OG orange box on 360, yeah. It's pretty tame compared to the PC version. Had a shit top, laptop. HP Pavilion. Oh man, I didn't even have an HP at the time. I had a freaking... wasn't a Dell. It was like a Toshiba, but like really on the cheap side. I mean, I couldn't even run Left 4 Dead on max settings on that thing. I could run it at medium on certain maps. The Minecraft and GL run maps on TF2 were great. In the 90s, when the internet was new, people thought it was going to change everything. Well, it does, and it has. Main issue with a lot, not only the art stealing and the change in attitude. Yeah, another thing with AI is when people become more and more reliant on it, they just stop trying as hard. Like, there's a reason why a lot of teachers, back in the day at least, they're like, yeah, don't use a calculator for this. Like, we want to see that you actually know how to do this by hand. Like, you know the process, and you're not just going to be punching buttons into the calculator to get the result. Even though in reality you're just going to be using a laptop or a calculator to solve these problems, we want to see you doing it manually. Like if a mechanic was working on a car, it's like, okay, do you know the engine parts by hand, or by heart, rather? Or do you have to look it up on your phone? You know, we want to make sure you actually know the thing that we're teaching you. So with AI, the problem is people are using it as the calculator for everything. It sucks that Google search now has like the AI result being the top result. And God only knows how many sources it had to steal from to get that information. I mean, it's Google, they already do that anyway, but still, it's like, if you're writing a paper and you need to answer to a question, it kinda sucks that you can just type that in and be like, oh, well, this is what the Google search says. I mean, teachers bitched and complained about Wikipedia back in the day. So, yeah, I don't use Wikipedia as a source. I don't care how many, like, you know, researchers and scientists the Wikipedia article actually sources. Don't use Wikipedia. And it's like, alright, well, I'm gonna have to find this specific book that was listed on Wikipedia. So say you're still using Wikipedia, but all you're doing is just going straight to the source that was sourced on Wikipedia. Problem with the AI search engine is like, alright, it's telling me the answer, but I don't know where it's coming from. They could be pulling this from like the worst book imaginable, and I wouldn't know. Or multiple books. Like, I may have written a book on dumb ideas, but the search engine isn't afraid to quote from it. So, yeah. And also the social aspect as well. I know a lot of people use the ChatGPT and other websites to talk to like an AI bot for memes and stuff. It's kind of funny to be talking to your favorite character and just seeing how they react to like certain things. But I can imagine a lot of people are using that as like a replacement for actual, you know, conversations with folks. And I get it, you know, talking to real people is scary. Shit, I still get the jitters every time I stream. But it's like, the problem is if you're already way too used to talking to AI, it might get to a point where you say something incredibly stupid to a real person, and then you realize, oh, I can't walk back on that prompt. Whoops. It's like you're so used to having control over who you're talking to and how they talk back to you that the moment you start talking to a real person, it's like, whoops, I don't have that control anymore. I don't like that feeling. I'm just gonna go back to talking to AI. And I know that sounds silly, but trust me, if there's one thing I've learned from humanity is we will always take it to the extreme. What was supposed to be a joke is gonna be like a major problem in the future because we're so used to it. So, yeah. However long that's gonna be. And again, these are just concerns, but we are living in the modern day and we have to deal with modern problems. And instead of ignoring it, like we usually do, it's better to address it and just think of ways to think of a better path instead of just being all defeatist where it's like, oh, you know, history's always been fucked, so what else is there to do? Well, you know, one thing, we can stop acting like that and actually try to think of something else. If something has historically been a problem, why are we keeping it that way? You know, some traditions need to be killed off for new blood to take hold. I still think about this one story I heard way back in middle school about this one family. For some reason, every Thanksgiving, they would cut the turkey's sides to make it square-shaped. And they always did that, and they never really questioned why. You know, some said that, oh, it's because the recipe needs the turkey to be square-shaped. Others say, you know, it's better for, like, the skin, something like that. Till finally, like, the youngest daughter, was like, I'm just gonna go ask Grandma why we do that. And the grandma's like, oh, we cut the turkey to make it look like a square because the oven we had at the time was super small and we had to do that just to make it fit. That's why we did it. So this family tradition of cutting the turkey into a weird-looking square, wasting all that meat, all that skin, for generations, or at least, you know, a generation or two, is because they just kept doing it and no one questioned why. For some reason, that story always stuck with me. You know, don't just settle on what we've been experiencing, when there's always going to be a better path, especially with technology improving. You know, don't just wait for the AI to come up with a solution. You can do one better. And, you know, life is a cooperative experience, so go ask somebody else for their opinion as well. They may not have the answer, but they might point you in the right direction. Buying isn't owning, piracy is stealing. Piracy is preservation at this point. A lot of game companies, not just game companies, every company, they don't really do a good job of archiving their stuff. And if it's not available online legally, then what are we going to do? Just let it just fade into obscurity? No. You want to watch that show that just isn't available anywhere, not even on streaming? Go fucking find a website that has it, dude. Don't let those memories just fade into the abyss, you know? Keep that shit alive if it means so much to you. Buy a physical copy if you can. Yeah, I mean, that was a nice thing about, like, the early days of the internet, was just how much more chaotic and free it was. Not that it was perfect or anything, nothing is ever perfect, but what was nice is you didn't have to worry about all this nonsense with, like, sponsorships and losing advertisers. Like, you literally could just watch, like, full-blown animes on YouTube because there wasn't really any, like, legal precedent. But ever since YouTube got bought off by Google, it's like, alright, we're just gonna have to go from one inconvenience to another. I think the one that is the most recent that's pissed me off the most is just the removal of the like and dislike system. Like, you have to put a freaking extension on your Firefox or your Google Chrome just to see dislikes now. It is so stupid. And it goes against the whole free speech thing. I thought we're supposed to be liking that. Guess not. So you're not allowed to not like this. And it's not even just, like, for opinions. Like, sometimes there's a video that's just really bad and would be terrible to show to, like, a child or somebody who's trying to learn something. It's like, this is just straight up fucking lie. Please, we need to take this video down, or at least show people that We don't approve this. So the fact that, you know, YouTube itself can just hide ratings, it's terrible. Some opinions do need to die off. And at the end of the day, it is a privately owned platform business, so how they run it is entirely up to them. But, you know, it still sucks that that's just what we have to put up with these days. Like, you can just wake up and they'll just do something that'll just be a major inconvenience. But because there's not really a major competitor, you just have to put up with it. It is funny that there is now a major competitor for Twitter with Blue Sky, so that's nice. But with YouTube, not really. Vimeo, I guess? I mean, Vimeo still has, like, full-blown animes on there, so yeah, I guess. Maybe Dailymotion? If you have $18K in your bank account, but someone steals $10 from your wallet, would you waste $18K just to recover those $10? Don't let 10 bad seconds steal the rest of your day away. Did you know Bill Gates makes so much money per second that if he were to drop a $100 bill, he would literally waste time by picking it up? Wow. I did not know that, but, yeah. The amount of times corporations have infringed on US laws and people's rights and gotten away with it is straight up made me a Maoist. Yeah. Politics has always been pay to win. Not that we should put up with that, but, you know, one step at a time. I mean, I saw this one video talking about South Korea basically being a corporation-owned country. And I feel like America's not too far away from that. Not already. And I know sometimes it feels like a hopeless endeavor just to keep living in this world, but you've lasted this long. It's gotta mean something. Regardless of what your mind says, your body is desperately trying to keep you alive for another day. And how you choose to spend your time is still your choice. Unless you're like in North Korea, then you don't really have much choice. Okay, but assuming you're not in North Korea, yeah, you still got an opportunity to do something great, so don't be bogged down by the crazy politics and other things happening in the world. That's always been a thing. There's never been a peaceful time, so. And like any other good story, there's always ups and downs, lots of downs, but You know, the important thing is that you can find a way to give yourself a good life despite everything that's being thrown at you. At the very least, you gotta admit, life will never be boring. Peace is just something you're gonna have to fight tooth and nail for. As ironic as that sounds, that's always been the case. I mean, people have conquered countries, and they still have to deal with so much when they get back home. Even Alexander the Great had to find some time to sleep. I don't know if we invented company towns or if the Dutch East Indies did it first, but either way, they've had way too much to say for too long. North Korea might as well be a hell pit, you know. I mean, the only person who seems to be having a good time is Kim Jong-un, so... See, how does it feel to be the fattest man in the country? Pretty good, apparently. Feels good, man. And Uncharted was fantastic. The music alone is enough to, like, remind me of how awesome the levels were in 2. Not just the single player, but the multiplayer was incredible. I remember my first introduction to Uncharted being, like, the multiplayer demo for the second game. Or multiplayer beta for the second game. And it was so good, I'm like, alright, I need to freaking play the first game. Because it was so good. It was really cool with the Uncharted 2 multiplayer beta is they have the two factions. They got the heroes and the villains. And I guess it's not much of a spoiler, but because the game's old, but there is one character that was on the hero side in the beta, but is on the villain side for the full game release. So I thought that was a really cool detail. And they did the same thing for Uncharted 3, where a character who's on the villain side is actually on the hero side in the full game. And what was a shame with that, though, is that the Uncharted 3 beta was actually better than the full game, because they actually had, like, cutscenes that would play at the beginning and the ending of each match. For some reason, they took that out. Maybe it was just a little too intense for PlayStation 3s at the time, but that was a tremendous shame. Because it was really cool that the cutscene would change depending on who wins the match. I love that. I mean, Uncharted 3's story was an absolute mess, but the multiplayer was fun at a certain point. Eventually, it just became horribly balanced because they made it so that cosmetic items now have, like, an effect. Like, oh, do you want to reload the gun faster? Well, equip these goggles. It's like, I don't want to wear the goggles. They make me look like an absolute tool. How do they determine who's villains and heroes in multiplayer? It just the story. Like the pirates and the mercenaries are villains. And, you know, Nathan Drake and friends were always going to be heroes. I mean, yeah, they're all treasure hunters, but some are like pirates or mercenaries that don't really mind civilian casualties all that much. So depending on how they feel about that, collateral damage basically determines if they're a hero or a villain. So I just thought it was really cool that they used that to their advantage if they wanted to hide a twist. That a character was actually, you know, a traitor, not a double agent. It's really clever. Fortunately, Uncharted keeps doing that, where the beta actually is better than the full game. Like with Uncharted 4's multiplayer beta, you can actually change the color of certain parts of your outfit, like your hat. You can only do that in the beta, you can't do that in the full game, because the full game, now it's all presets. Like, you can't just have your hat be blue. In fact, you can't even change the color of your accessories at all. You can only change your outfit based on a preset. A preset of colors that are all obtained from a loot box, of all things. Now, what is nice is that there's no duplicates ever, but so much content is now with a loot box, and you have to grind the game quite a bit just to get some decent gear. Thankfully, that wasn't at launch. They didn't introduce loot boxes until like a couple of years after the game was already out. So by that point, I already had most of the physical cosmetic items. And what is nice is the objectives that you can do to get the currency for those loot boxes. You can get those by just playing the survival mode, where it's just PvE. So if you're not really good at PvP, you can just do PvE and earn the currency just fine. Essentially future-proofing the game. There's nothing worse than a game that has microtransactions and you can't earn the currency by playing the PvP anymore. Because there's not enough people online to form a lobby. I mean, it was rough back then when games were using microtransactions to force players to engage with the game longer than they really should. Obviously, they want to incentivize the player to use real money, but they tantalize the deal by making it so that, oh, hey, look, you can just grind the game out for this one item, or you can just use real money and get like a bundle or a loot box that has many items that you might like. And all started because of that dumb horse armor. I'm off to the gym. Thanks for streaming, and I'll see you next time. Well, take it easy right now, Saga. Oh, Saga. Jeez, I am so used to saying that. But that Saga is walked off into the sunset. So, welcome to the new chapter, I guess. But yeah, you have yourself a good workout. Get those gains, bro. Bethesda's on my shit list for a long time. Absolutely. Especially with what happened with Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within. Yeah, I'm not too fond of the Bethesda we have today. Jeez, I haven't even played Skyrim. I've enjoyed watching other people play it, but I have never played Skyrim myself. The only Bethesda game I've played is Fallout 3. Because New Vegas was Obsidian, so that doesn't count for the most part. I mean, I guess you can say it's still Bethesda because it is their engine. Maybe. Maybe not. But, yeah, Fallout 3 would be my only Bethesda game, aside from, Hi-Fi Rush and The Evil Within, which is just, they're the publisher. Both The Evil Within and Hi-Fi Rush are just Tango Gameworks. Skyrim is only 12 gigabytes. Yeah, true, but I can imagine I'm gonna install like a bunch of mods that will improve the game experience. Because it is a Bethesda game, and I know there's gonna be a lot of annoying things that are easily fixed with some mods. I mean, even with New Vegas, I had to install a bunch of quality of life mods just to, one, make sure the game doesn't crash every 5 minutes, and two, I don't want to put up with the gunplay that is so stiff and feels so robotic. I actually like it when guns have cool reload animations and feel nice to fire. So I must have installed like 30 gigabytes of mods just to improve New Vegas. Because I did not want to play vanilla. I played Fallout 3 vanilla back on PlayStation 3, and it was fine for the most part. And I loved the atmosphere. It's just I've had that experience, and I don't want to have that just be the only experience I have with Fallout. If I'm gonna play another Fallout game, it's gonna be with mods, and mods that do their best to still keep the same spirit, but also make the game really entertaining to play compared to modern games today. I know Nakey Jakey had like a video talking about just how archaic Starfield was compared to not only games we have today, the games that came out like years ago, where even the shooting doesn't feel as good as it should. And I get it, you know, it's like an RPG first, shooter second, but come on now, it's a first-person shooter. The shooting part actually needs to feel good. Starfield is a walking sim in space, I can imagine. One of the most damning critiques I've heard about the game is how most of the quests are, this should have just been an email. Like, can you not just talk to this person through digital channels? Why do you have to have a delivery man or woman or alien? Can you even be an alien in Starfield? Like, I don't think you can. You have to be human or humanoid. But yeah, like, you have to do everything on foot. And it wasn't until recently where they actually added vehicles. Yeah. I remember somebody even pointed out, it's like, it's almost like Bethesda doesn't play other video games. So that's why, like, Starfield just feels the same. Even with the bumped up graphics, you're just playing like a worse version of Skyrim. I think they got sillier with Starfield. Could have been okay. Like you'd be a green or gray Martian alien kind of guy and shoot mind beams. Yeah. Well, there's already a problem right there. Bethesda doesn't know guns. They just don't understand how they work. They never got it right. They can't really figure out if they want to do like a steampunk style with their weapons, or they go for like realism of the older Fallout games. Regardless of what direction they go with, they just can't get weapons to behave like their real-life counterpart or realistically. Like the made-up guns in Fallout 4 just don't follow any sort of logic with firearms. It's like, why is the magazine over there? Because they wanted to put it right there, not because it lines up with the barrel or anything. Of course, the most egregious one was the freaking auto shotgun, where they have the drum mag at the very front of the gun. So somehow the shell casing has to travel all the way to the back and then be loaded into the chamber. Like, absolute madness. That's why their only way to do it would have been go full retro sci-fi love letter. Yeah. That would be fun. Especially with like the audio being like really compressed. Be funny if you can see strings on characters who can fly. Like they're being held up by, you know, props and stuff. That would have been a better way of handling it. But no, every game needs to just look the same. What carries the Fallout games was just the writing. As far as presentation goes, it doesn't involve as much as it really needs to. And it's really weird to talk about Fallout without, you know, also considering how much mods have just improved the overall experience. So much so that plenty of people, not just myself, recommend folks play the game with mods as their first experience. In a lot of cases, you don't have much of a choice. You want the games to be stable. Have the creature from the Black Lagoon give a quest to get his wife back from the evil kidnapping humans. Alright, I'd say this is a good stopping point. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm still burnt out from yesterday's birthday party, so I was already planning for this to be a pretty short stream. But yeah, I'm glad that for the most part, the storyboard for Chapter 6 is done. I don't think I will be changing too much as far as the placement of the characters. The only thing left for me to do, actually there's a lot, I'm not even close to being done, but I'll be working on getting the sketches done for this, both this page and the second one. This chapter is only going to be 2 pages because it's just going to be like a setup for a joke and a payoff. Those are always fun. But it leads into the next chapter, so it's not even going to be like a one-off joke. It actually has a point to it, you know. So yeah, get the sketches done and then do the lines and color. So it's going to be a whole thing. Wish me luck, and I'll be able to finish this comic before the end of the month and effectively the end of the year. But yeah, thanks for stopping by, everybody. Yeah, have a fantastic day or night, depending on where you are. And yeah, thanks for stopping by. The next stream will be on Monday. It'll be a game stream. Most likely going to be streaming Valkyria Chronicles 4. If not, there's probably going to be another game I can probably stream. Maybe a co-op one. We'll see. Yeah, thank you, PK Angel. Yeah, I always love drawing Monica. She's always fun to draw. Like, all the characters are fun to draw, but Monica especially, just because the hair. And uniforms are always cool to draw. I love how organized it is. Yeah. Have a great night, John Carmine, and everybody else who's still sticking around. Bye-bye. See you on Monday.
You ready to do something profoundly stupid?
Am I ready? Anytime.
It's time to tip the odds back in our favor.
Okay, it's game time.
Get in here! Oh, there you are! This was it. It was almost over.
Did you see that, Zach? Clear as a crisp spring morning. I knew I could count on it. Never fails. Now then, let's get going.